have it recorded, and you can, I'll show you where you can get that at the end of the session. So today we're going to talk about where to find evaluation and the analytics tools in RPR. And basically, I'm going to show you how to do a CMA. And Faye wanted to know, how can we use this tool and can we use it for specific market areas? And I'll show you some cool things that you can do with that, Faye. And I want to really talk to you about what are called the definitions and the importance of AVMs and RVM. So we'll talk a little bit about that and how to refine these things called AVMs and RVMs. And in fact, I'm throwing this terminology out. They have these um, abbreviations right here in the PowerPoint. But an AVM is simply an automated valuation model. It's an automated valuation model. It's a computer trying to figure out what a property's value is. And it's this computer that's taking all of this data. You've heard probably the term big data. So it's taking all of this data and it's trying to figure out what a value is of a property. So we'll talk about that because there are some limitations to AVMs. And then we have what's called the RVM, which is the realtor's valuation model. And our automated valuation model is a little bit more robust, a little bit more accurate because of a couple of various things that we'll talk about here. So we're going to talk about AVMs and RVMs, and may make more sense as we get in and go through some of the examples. I'm going to show you how to create a CMA and how to create some various reports and some other really cool things you can do with RPR with the tools and modules. So let's talk about this AVM, Automated Valuation Model. And by the way, I only have a few PowerPoint slides and we're going to get right in and just work in RPR. So don't think that I'm going to be in PowerPoint the whole time, but there are a few things we need to kind of set the stage and understand. So an AVM, an Automated Valuation Model, is a computer trying to figure out a price of a property. It calculates information based on, and there's a key word here that I think you really need to make sure that you know, but it's based on public data. Now, the problem with public data is that in some states and some municipalities, we do not have to report sales prices to the local courthouse. In my state, Missouri, we don't do that. And therefore, if you have something like a Zillow trying to come up with a Zestimate, it really has no access to any of this public data, does it? So, that's one thing that is a problem with an AVM. The second problem we have, and I've lost my mouse somehow. Let's see if I can figure out where that
Hey, John, I don't know if you can hear me. This is Valerie from RPR. We seem to have lost your audio. Is
Uh-oh.
everybody?
Now, is it back now? I'm sorry. For some reason, my audio got turned off. So I'm sorry. Do you know how long that was, Valerie?
Everybody who's attending,
So I should be back on now, and my apologies.
I can hear you fine, so I'm going to hear everybody else as
Okay.
well. Thank you.
So I don't know how long I was off audio there. So my apologies. Sometimes the go-to webinar panel always wants to jump out, and when I go to close it, the mute microphone must have been right below. So my apologies about that. So I'm going to back up if I've been speaking a little bit, and thank you, Valerie, for that. A couple of things I just wanted to mention here for you is that um, on this RVM, keep in mind that you can see what the computer was looking at, what properties it chose to do this specific uh, for this specific RVM. So a lot of times, if you're looking at the RVM that the property has, a realtor valuation model, if you want to know what properties it included to calculate that RVM, you could select View Details and come up with that information. The other thing I was mentioning there, and hopefully I'm not repeating, but I'll go back over it. Keep in mind that right here, the RVM is going to adjust every month, and we'll be able to look at that, what's happened in the last month and the last 12 months. We also have this little I button that shows you explanations for some of the details. So don't worry if you ever forget, hey, what was that specific piece? You can go right in and you can just put your mouse over the little I and it will give you that information. Now, keep in mind on this property, we're going to be able to go in and fine tune this property based on our knowledge and our inspection of our inspection of the property, our physical inspection, and our knowledge of the marketplace. For example, if I pull this property up as a comparable here on 11 Hollyhock Lane, I actually been in that property, so I'm familiar with it. So after I look at my subject property, I can actually go into this property and 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 rate it as being either similar, better, or worse than my CMA. And that's going to help me really fine tune and narrow into the price for this property. Okay, again, my apologies about that. I'm going to keep an eye on my little microphone to make sure. Don't forget, we have zip forms that you can integrate if you want to complete a listing contract or a sales contract. It's a really great feature. And then we have this property analysis for investors. We're not covering that during this particular webinar. And then you have the ability for training videos and additional information. So I'm just going to scroll down and show you a few things right here. We have the ability to look at this property. If it's ever been listed before, we could go back and look at this information. We could compare the public data versus the listing data, and lots of really good information uh, right there in that respect. We also have information about the neighborhood, and we can scroll on down and see information about the owners, home facts, lots of data that you can see, lots of charts. In fact, we've got a whole selection of charts and other data that's here. And we've got a really cool feature in RPR called the home energy consumption. This is a big deal today for a lot of buyers and sellers out in the marketplace, specifically buyers who want to know what kind of energy cost does this property have. This is a new feature that's been added, but it gives you the ability to really show a buyer and even maybe work with a seller to say, a buyer may be looking at this. Your energy score is 26 out of 100. That's not real good. But unfortunately, this could be a stumbling block for us when we go to resale. And this is all powered by Tendril Home Fit, so you can take a look at that. the legal description, tax information, all of this is right here. But since we're working on pricing and we want to really price this property accurately, a couple of things we may want to look at first of all. I want to come over here and I want to go into the bigger map, and I just want to show you the ability for us to do what are called heat overlays, and they're right underneath the map. And if I go into a heat overlay, I can actually go in and see what's going on in the marketplace. It's a pretty cool feature, and I'm telling you, I've used this time and time again with many of my customers just to give them a better idea about the marketplace and about why their property maybe is not appreciating as fast as they had hoped it would. You can see this is a pretty good area in my location where I'm at. This is a 12-month change in value. And right down below here, you can see that if it's in red, that means property values are going down. Now, this is over the last 12 months. If they're in light blue or darker blue, estimated values are going up over the last 12 months. Well, we can come back and look at this property and see that it's in a lighter blue. It's really a pretty good area. This is a very good subdivision, but we can see there are some parts of Farmington where the market actually is not doing quite as well. This is back in an area called, this would actually be Farmington Meadows right here, John David. These are a lot of newer homes. So if I'm doing a CMA back in here, these property values are actually falling a little bit to where Holiday Park, they're still holding their value, maintaining their value a little bit more. There are several heat overlays that you can look at. If you wanted to look at the average sales price, you could do that right there. And so you just basically need to go and play around with some of these and look at what's there, list price versus sales price. I'm going to be very, very upfront and honest with you. I'm in a rural community, a smaller community. The map that works the best for me is this 12-month change in value. But occasionally, if you're in some bigger locations, some of these heat overlays are going to be a huge and a tremendous asset for you that you can take a look at. I will mention to you that there are also flood zones. And so if you've got a property that you think might be in a flood zone or may require flood insurance, which is going to affect the price of the property, you might want to be able to take a look at that. And just to reference this, all of the maps are footnoted. These are coming from FEMA. They will tell you where the map comes from, in this case FEMA, and they will also tell you when it was recently or how often it is updated. So just check out some of the heat overlays. They do a great job in helping you. Again, in our business, if you're not pricing the property correctly right out of the get-go, it's going to be very difficult for you to try to get that property sold. We all want a listing that's going to sell, and sometimes these heat overlays have really helped me be able to tell the story and get a price reduction on a property. So that, again, is right under the map. So I just went into the bigger map in this case, but you will notice the heat overlays are right here. So that's one thing I wanted to make sure that you're aware of. The second thing I really want you to make sure of is that you go out and compare the historical records, take a look at what's been going on in that respect. Now, let's go over to the History tab, because this is a great tab and has some wonderful information. This specific chart right here, and I was trying to find one that would have a little bit more robust information, and unfortunately I wasn't able to find anything. But this first graph under the History tab really provides a lot of useful information for you as an agent before you go on the listing appointment. For one thing, you're going to see listing activity, you're going to see financing activity, so if they've refinanced it, if it's been distressed or possibly gone into a pre-foreclosure at one time, this would show up here. You're going to see the assessed value as well as the assessor market value. It's pulling that over. And then if there's any kind of comps or different things, all of this would be displayed right here. Sometimes I've had some properties I've gone out to on a listing appointment, and I really was able to see a lot of stuff going on here. And it really showed me the motivation of the seller. You could use the flip side of that as when you're working as a buyer's agent. Because if a buyer that you're representing finds a property they like, you can find a lot out about this property and this client, this seller, and what they've been doing the last few years and what's happening. A lot of other information here, prior sales transactions. I know this property has none, but if you went into here, I could look at the public records. I could also look at listing records and take a look at the prior transactions. I can also go down and a lot of times have mortgage data depending on your location that you could look at as well. And then we have charts and lots of charts. I won't go through those specifically, but just understand there's a ton of charts here. Now, some people ask me, my gosh, John, if I had to go over every chart with my customer, they would pull their hair out. The answer is sure. I mean, I don't go over all of these charts, but if you can find one or two charts that help you out, it can sure help tell a story. For example, this chart on the first page, which is under the summary page, right here. What I normally do is uncheck St. Francis County and I uncheck Missouri. I want to get really down to my property that I'm doing the CMA on and my zip code because it's a tighter market area. Look at this. If I'm going out to price this property, I now have a talking point with my seller because this is where their property is in the marketplace. But look where the median estimated home value is in the marketplace. It's down right around 150. There's a pretty big significant gap here, which means my seller needs to understand we don't have as many buyers for their property in this price range, which means they might need to be a little more aggressive on their pricing if they want to try to beat some of the competition and to be more attractive in the marketplace. So this graph can tell a lot working with sellers and buyers, but it's been a good tool for me to use and explain. Don't be mad if I'm not showing your property every day because we're in a whole different ballpark with this price. And B, think about trying to price your property as effectively as possible so that we can be more attractive to potential buyers and agents that are out in the marketplace. So again, this chart's on the first page under summary. You've got lots of other charts. You've got heat overlays, and you just really want to find those 2 or 3 visuals that can help you tell your story to price your property effectively. So we're going to jump over to the refined value. We've got, these are all the tabs we have for this property here: summary, history, charts. Now we're going to go to refined value. And the one thing that I want to mention to you here is that I want to remind you about Dale Carnegie. Remember Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence Enemies? And what was the one thing Dale told us to always remember? You can win more friends in 2 months by showing them that you are interested in them than you can in 2 years by trying to get them interested in you. And what I want you to understand about that statement and this particular piece of RPR that I think is just one of the coolest features of RPR, because it sets me up to have talking points with the seller. I can now ask the seller questions as we go through the house and I see what they've done to the home and the updates they've made. I can now, when we sit down at the kitchen counter, say, you were showing me your bathroom and you remodeled that, and you said you did that when in March of 2015, and approximately how much did you spend on your remodel? Oh, we spent $25,000 on the bathroom. Okay, I'll add that, and look what happened. I just gave them $12,000, $12,443 in value, and it added that right up here to the RVM. And now I'm getting a refined estimated RVM. I'm telling you what, when I do this, people are so excited that I'm taking an interest in what they've done to their property. And I'm giving them value. I'm including that in my CMA. And I will tell you this, 9 out of 10 real estate agents do not take the time to do that. I know that. I mean, we all know that. Unfortunately, because we're trying to sell the person so hard on our services and all these other things that sometimes we forget to really say, hey, what have you done to the home? And tell me a little bit about when did you do it and how much did you spend? You now have this great vehicle or this tool to where you can go down through here and include when they've added an entry door. And it's a steel door. And they added that in March of 2015, the same time that they did the bathroom. And they spent $3,000 on the door. You now just gave them almost $2,000 for that improvement. And RPR is adding that to the value. So it's a great tool, and it's a great way for you to show the consumer that you're interested in what they've done. And I'm telling you, if your competition doesn't do that, you've already one step up on them. So great tool under refined value. And then if there are some things like, let's say it needs a new roof and you know the roof's going to cost $20,000, you can add that and it will actually subtract the $20,000 and calculate that in as well up above. So now we're coming down, and remember what I said earlier. We've got to remember this. And whether it's an AVM or an RVM, it's simply a computer trying to make a guess. The computer has never been able to walk through the doorway and look at the house. You and I have that privilege to do that, to inspect the property, to look at homes. And some homes we go in and we're like, wow, this is so awesome. And other times we go in a house and that's like, I'm going to have to try to figure out a way to get them to get rid of the clutter, to do some painting. There's a lot of stuff they need to do. Well, guess what? We now can come in and we can make adjustments based on the condition of the home. So if the house needs some work, we scroll down here and look what's happening. RPR's calculating all of this. If the home's in very good condition, we can move it over and it gives it 10,000. Same way with the exterior. Maybe it needs a little work on the exterior. Maybe our local market conditions are really hot. Maybe they're really slow. This is where you're going to add your knowledge, your experience, and your expertise. And when you do that, RPR will adjust the numbers automatically, and you'll be able to now really narrow in on the property and what it should be worth. Now, that's just a refined value tab. We're going to jump over to the comp analysis tab now, and we're going to actually create our own CMA. Now, I do want to point out there are two items here. There's what's called a sales comparison analysis. And in this case, you can just skip this step. And right here, you can find out what the difference is. Let me just tell you very briefly, I always use the comparative analysis because it's doing the calculations for me. If you want to do your own calculations and you want to have more of a valuation workbook, or if you do a lot of BPOs, you may, or if you're an appraiser, you may want to use the sales comparison approach. Again, you could skip that step right there and then just move on. But for most of us, we're probably going to want to do the comparative analysis because RPR will do the grunt work for us and the calculations and everything. So now I just come up here, and if I need to make any changes on the side, I can do that. If I confirm the facts and RPR says, wait a minute, John, we need to know the bedrooms and the baths, then I can put that number in and then confirm the facts. So that's step one. You're going to notice that we do 5 steps here to generate a report. The second one is to search for comps. So I'm going to select search for comps. And right here, you'll notice I could go over here and start changing a lot of things. The map's pre-drawn. I'm just encouraging you to search with the preset information. Now notice I only get 1 sold. So let's go back and modify the search. And right here, I'm going to change this to 12 months. And now I'm going to come out and I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And now I'm going to come back and search. See, RPR is searching within the map area. Now I'm getting 7 solds I can use. And I went back 12 months. So I'm going to use all 7 of these. And I'll put all of these in here. There's a couple for sale that I can throw in there. And if I get over here and say, you know what? I don't know if I want to use this one on O'Banion because it sold for $500,000. I'm going to just remove that. Okay, so now, and I could, here's one on St. Andrews. It was $415. I want to get rid of that one. And this one sold for $303 and $305. Really, those are out of the league of, I could have used that $303. Maybe I'll put that back in there. Here it is. So I'll add that to the list. So now I've picked my comps and I'm going to update the valuation and close. So at this stage, I now have a new price here, but I need to adjust the comps. So I'm going to go in and adjust the comps. And by the way, I've just been kind of moving triggers around. So you would painstakingly do this correctly and accurately, but I'm on the webinar, and so I'm just kind of moving things around. So I'm going to make this better, and I'm going to make this one, leave that the same. And right down here, I can even include notes with my CMA. Because a lot of times I use my iPad and I'll highlight that with my little Apple Pen. So now I'm going to go over to the next one. And here, this property's better. This one's better. This one is much better. And should have two more to adjust. This one's much better here. And this one, we'll leave it the same, and I'm going to put that in the first position. So now you can see I can move my comps around, I can add notes, and I'm actually making adjustments based on my knowledge of the marketplace. And if I needed to look at these, in a bigger photos, and I wanted to go through and look at the inside of the house, I could take a look at that. And this particular house, that's my listing, and so I know it's not in as good a condition as my subject property. So now I've made my adjustments and I update the valuation and close, and I'm coming in at 305. Now again, I just was putting numbers around and moving that. I can edit this, so if I want to say $299 would be a good list price, it could go anywhere from $275 to $310. I can save that, and now I'm going to create my report. This is about an 85-page report, and I know some of you are saying I'm going to go to the seller's report. If you want to take anything out of the report, it's not a big problem. You can change that. You can change any of these right here. And one of my favorite features, and that's the thing I love about RPR, is they're always adding new features to RPR. And this we added a few months ago, probably 7 or 8 months ago. But I can manage custom pages. So if I wanted to find my About John Mayfield right here, I'm going to just put that on my desktop, just so you've got this right here. And so now I'm going to add a new page, and I'm going to go out to my desktop, And I have a page about John Mayfield. There it is right there. I can choose that. And so I can say, you know what, I want to put this at the beginning of the CMA. And so I'll click Save. And I can add other pages to be included with that as well. And now I've got all of my information, and I'm going to, I could email this to the client, but I don't like to do that unless they live out of the area. But if I'm going over to their property, I'm going to run the report. And now in 2 minutes, that report will be done. And I'm telling you what, it's an amazing report, and it will upstage your competition. And I normally would tell the story about how I was driving and listening to a podcast, and you know, this gentleman was talking about the difference between a dollar bill and $100 bill, and he said there's only one difference between a dollar bill and a $100 bill, and he was talking about it's you know, it's the message. One conveys a dollar bill message, and one conveys a $100 bill message. And I'm telling you what, this RPR report is a $100 bill message every time. It really is. It's just an awesome report. Now, you can notice that I could do a property report, and you know, it has lots of information. And it's very customizable to leave things off or suppress. I could do a mini property report if you wanted to do that. You could do that as well. You could do a flyer. You can do a valuation workbook if you were putting that in through the sales comparison approach that we looked at a little bit earlier. There's a school report, neighborhood report, market activity report, and more. So now this is being generated. Once it's done, it will let me know, but I can go back to the home screen and begin working on with other needs that I might have. Now, let me just show you something that's really cool, that when I get out in the market, you know, to the consumer's house, or if I'm somewhere, RPR, if you haven't downloaded the mobile app, you're really missing out. And you can, it works for the Android or the iOS, Apple. But I'm just going to show you real quickly here on my, so here's my iPhone. And you know what, it may not, because I switched recently to a, I just went from an Apple to the Android, so I don't know if it's going to let me on my old Apple RPR. But what I wanted to show you was this, and I can show you in, looks like it's going to let me log in, which is good. So my report's ready. I'm going to hit download that. And I want to just show you something really cool here. So now I'm out in the field, and I've got this 85-page report. I go over the report on my iPad with my client, or soon-to-be client. Notice right down here I have a little recent button. If I select the recent button, look right here. There's that property that I've been looking at right there. It knows my most recent properties that I've been looking at through RPR. So here's the property right here. Now I'm going to go back up here and hit the back arrow. And I'm going to move over here to reports. And look, here's that report that that we're looking at on my computer. So if I select view report, I could pull this report up and show it to them right on my computer if I wanted to. More specifically, what I could do after I go over the report with them is share it with them. So here's the report. Same report you're going to see right over here. It's the same exact report. Now I'm going to hit the X button, and now I'm going to hit share, and I'll hit continue. And look at this, I could send it by instant message, I could email it to them, I can even airdrop it. I had a customer I was working with, and I did the report. She had an iPhone, and her iPhone popped up here, and I said, oh, I'll just airdrop it to you, and I clicked on it, and it went right to her iPhone, and she thought that was the coolest thing. She had never used airdrop, and I had to spend like 15 minutes showing her how to use airdrop to transfer pictures. But immediately I put the report right on her phone. She was able to look at it, and we were able to do that. So you can see all my reports are right here, all of my recent searches, all of my properties, and so much more. So I just kind of wanted to show you that because, a lot of times people say to me, well, John, there's no way I would want to go over 84 pages or whatever it is. I'm going to just download this and we'll see how many pages it is. So it's 83 pages. It's normally right around 80. And I say, you know what? And look, there's my resume that came up a little bit. Any pages you want to put there, you can. And I say, I don't go over all 84 pages with them either, but I go over a few things. And what's really cool on my iPad, and I have an iPad Pro, I'm able to circle and highlight and make notes. And then I email that to them. And it's got my notes and my information. In fact, some of the programs I use, I can even record notes and they can have the audio that goes with it. But it really is, you're able to provide a very, very interesting, detailed report that will really set you apart from the competition. So I want to jump over here. There's a couple of other things that I may need to cover, and I want to just open it up for any questions you might have. We looked a lot about, I was trying to go down through here to make sure that I didn't miss anything. We searched, we made adjustments, we created our report, and the valuation workbook we didn't get into too much, but I want to just see if we have any questions, and because we've got a few minutes left here, and there's quite a few folks on the call, but that's okay. And I do want to get back. There was a question from Faye at the very beginning. Let's see here. What did you click on to start the CMA, Andrea? Okay, great question. Thank you for that. When I was in this property, Andrea, right here on 707 Ozark, notice all my recent properties are on the home screen. So what I did, Andrea, to begin the CMA report is right up here, there's a comp analysis report right there. And by the way, I recorded this, and I'll show you where I'm going to post that so that you can go. So that's where I was able to do that. Elizabeth said, yes, Elizabeth, I am recording it, and I'll show you where you can get a copy to look at that. What do you do when you can't find any homes for the CMA? Well, that's a great, great question, Naomi, and that does happen periodically. And in those situations, in fact, you might notice that one listing that I had that was in my CMA, that was in this property right here. This is my listing. And, my RVM came in at 199. I had them lower it to 189. I really didn't have a lot of good comps for this. Notice it's got some of my notes here. Those are all the room sizes, my daughter and I, when we took the listing. But sometimes, Naomi, you do get properties like this. And as I told them, I said, you know what? This is a unique property. She's a very good friend of my mother's. She just went into a nursing home. I know she needs to get as much money as she can. And I told them, I said, let's try it at this price. But please understand, if we're not getting good feedback or evaluations from showings, then we're probably going to need to think about dropping it. And that's actually what we're having to do. So, in those instances, Naomi, I think sometimes we just have to be honest and upfront to say, this is going to be a tough one. It has some unique characteristics, and I would rather start a little higher. That's just my personal preference because she's a friend of my mother's. And if I had priced it more aggressively in the beginning and it sold quickly, which is what it should do, I just was worried there might be more backlash of maybe I didn't price it high enough. So sometimes it's hard to get comps. And Amirita wanted to know, I was hoping to get detailed info on how to do the home valuation report. Well, I mean, that basically, and I'll be glad to answer that a little bit more, but basically, I hope that we walk through on how to do that. You are able to refine the value on your home valuation using your experience, and then we went into the comp analysis and we adjusted the comps. So if there was something more specific that I could answer, I'd be glad to do that. And I'd be more than happy if you want to contact me offline, and I'd be glad to help you in that. How do you select comparables from multiple towns as the average amount searched by the program? That's a great question, Heather. Thank you for that. When you go into searching for comps, and by the way, anytime you want to go back into a CMA, just select the edit. Unfortunately, you can search by a custom area, and you can search by geography. You could search within a zip code, but if you're doing multiple towns, you might have to search. It may be a little bit challenging to do that in RPR, and I don't know, Valerie, if you're still on the call, but that might be something we could give to the team that does the updates to RPR, where you could maybe have a multiple search for various towns. I don't think we can do that right now. You can, if the towns are close by, you could zoom out and do a search, and then you're going to get a lot more comps, and so you're going to have to go through and pull out the comps you want to do, but it might be a little bit, that would be the only way I would know you could do that. Yeah, John, I'm going to show you, we've got a lot more calls here. What are the, okay, if you want to shorten the CMA, Gene, and I'm going to show everybody where they can find a recording for this too. If you wanted to shorten the CMA, when you go into your reports and you went into the seller's report, go to more details, I would just go through here and probably pull out some of the things like, assessed values, mortgage values. You may not need the property history, historic photos. I think you could just go through and pull out the things that you feel like, distressed properties. Maybe I don't want to include those. Maybe I do. Here, you can change this to 2 pages. You could change this main photos only. Here, you could have side by side. So there's lots of things you could go through here and uncheck and make notes of, and you could shorten that down considerably. You can also go into the mini property report and take a few of those pages out, and it would do a good job as well. So if you want to go out to businesstechguy.com, that's my website, and I'm going to just show you my phone number here at the top. So you can call me. You're welcome to call me. I'll be more than happy to visit with you by phone. My phone number is right up here. My email address is right here. And if you come down here to resources and go to RPR, I will post today's webinar right up here at the top. So it'll be at the top. And by the way, you can even chat with me too if you prefer to do that as well. Well, I hope this was helpful for you, and I didn't mean to have that thing pop up. So you got to have a sign up feature on your website, right? I talk a lot about that. Marvel want to know buyer CMA possible? Absolutely. I do the same process, Marvel, when I'm going through and doing a CMA for a buyer's agent. So yes. Cheryl wants to know, can you save a template of the pages you want to use? Yeah, Cheryl, that's a really cool thing is once you save that on your reports and you check these, they normally will remain that way for you the next time you pull your report back up. At least they have for me, so you can do that. And then Michael said, how do you explain the difference between the RVM price versus your comp price? Great question. The RVM price, remember, is just the computer giving you that value where without any adjustments, but your price, your comp price, is you making adjustments based on your knowledge of the marketplace, your experience of the comparables in the marketplace, and your physical inspection of what the property actually looked like. That's what's really great about RPR is it allows you to incorporate and integrate all of those within. Well, you've been a great group. My apologies that I hit the mute on my microphone. Maybe it came through on the recording still. We'll hope so. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to upload this to YouTube now. You can go out to businesstechguy.com, go down to resources RPR. I'll plug it in right up there. And don't forget, you can call me or email me if you have any other questions. I love to give and I love to help other agents with their real estate business. So just reach out to me. I'll be glad to help you in any way. Thanks for watching. I hope all of you go out and list and sell a house today. So that would be cool, wouldn't it? I hope I can do that. So I'm going to look at one in the morning, but still plenty of daylight to sell something today. So we'll get after it now. Thanks again for listening and watching. And I hope you all have a wonderful Christmas and a happy New Year. And we will see you soon. Thanks again. Bye. Elizabeth, you just said you were writing something. Go to businesstechguy.com, select resources, and we'll be right under there under RPR. Thank you again.